All right, so we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get right into the content. And I'm going to play the video for those that don't know. But there was a high school track runner, and she absolutely clocked this girl in the back of her head with the baton. I don't know what's in the batons, but for whatever reason, that caused her to have a skull fracture, and I think she had a concussion as well. Now, the girl's family went on to say, hey, we just need an apology from the track runner, from the coach, an apology from the school. Somebody needs to be held responsible and at least give us an apology. The girl didn't do that. The girl that clocked the other girl on the back of the head didn't even have the decency to go back and apologize. So the family of the victim decided that they were going to press charges.
The Lynchburg Commonwealth's attorney confirmed on Wednesday that Everett was charged for her role in the incident in Lynchburg, where she is seen hitting another runner, Kaylin Tucker, in the head with a baton. Earlier this week, I spoke with Everett and her dad. She said what is seen in the video was an accident. Everett said she lost her balance because the runner did not provide herself enough distance to cut into the inside lane of the track during the race. Everett says the hit was not intentional, but she's received backlash online, including death threats.
I'm saying, this is Say It Louder. And if you have something to say it down in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button.
He can't say that.
Is he allowed to say that?
I'll say it louder. I don't know about receiving death threats. I think that is a bridge too far. But what I will tell you is that was no accident. That was no accident. When a girl is passing you, you reach over and smack her in the back of the head with the baton. The aggressor, she did say, yo, it wasn't intentional. I'm coming over. My arms goes up. It runs up her back and I can't put it down. So I got to smack her. I got to give her a concussion. I got to reach over into the other aisle, into the other lane, and clock her upside her head. Anybody that's buying that, I have a bridge to sell you. There's no way that that was not intentional. In my book, I never ran track. I wasn't there. But I can't see a way that that wasn't intentional. If it wasn't intentional, right, after she finished the track meet, after everything had died down, she could have gone back and apologized and said, hey, are you okay? I see that you fell out. Literally, the girl falls out onto the track, onto the middle of the track. Somebody could have gone back and checked on her, whether it's the runner, whether it's the coach, whether it's somebody from the school, whether it's the parents. Somebody could have gone back and just made sure she was okay. Made sure that she had somebody to acknowledge the fact that this girl went and smacked her in the head. But nobody wanted to do that. Nobody thought it was important enough that we make sure that the victim hasn't sustained any injury. Now, I know there are going to be some people that feel like charges being pressed on the girl that's the aggressor is a bit too much. And I'm going to tell you it's not. Because we're only here because of the fact that you didn't come over and rectify the situation, that make sure that the girl was okay. And when the family came out and said, hey, all we want is an apology. All we want is an admission of guilt. You still felt the need to highlight the fact about how you felt in the situation. You still felt the need to play the victim, even though you had an actual victim, somebody that had a concussion, somebody that had a skull fracture, whether it be minor or major. That's something that you did. You caused that. So now, when somebody goes to press charges on you, I hope that you are tried to the full extent of the law, because you have to be held accountable and other people have to know that this is not okay. I want to talk about something that's kind of related to this, but not entirely. But it does have to deal with being responsible for your actions and being accountable for the things that you do. And that's the story over at Southern University. You had a couple of guys there in a frat and they're hazing another guy. They end up causing his death, but because they don't want to be responsible for the things that they did, they go and drop him off at the hospital and decide to fabricate a story. They think that there's going to be some level of secrecy behind the thing that they did, and they won't have to admit what the actual story was. Well, now those guys are also having charges pressed against them, and they've been arrested. If you're not completely familiar with the story, let me tell you what happened. Some guys, they go off campus. Something happens to one of the guys. They end up dropping them off at the hospital. It later comes out that the guy's being hazed. What they actually did was punch him in the chest. The guy had a seizure, and because they didn't want to be responsible, they didn't want to tell what was going on. You know, there's a bit of secrecy while you're pledging to a frat. Not that I went to school or anything. This is just my understanding. There's a bit of secrecy for surrounding what you do to gain initiation into a fraternity or sorority, all these organizations. They didn't want to tell exactly what happened, so they fabricated a story. They changed his clothes, dropped him off at the hospital, met back up, and fabricated a story about what they would say to authorities or anybody that came to question what they did, what happened to the guy. Well, that guy ended up passing, and now those guys are being charged for their participation in his death. In that case, there are also people that are saying, hey, it was an accident. They shouldn't be held accountable. Let me be clear. Hazing is a part of the initiation of different organizations, whether that be certain organizations in the military, in a police force, in college. This is not anything new. There are other professional organizations that have some sort of initiation ritual in order to bring you into the fold. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not saying that that doesn't happen. What I am saying is you have to be responsible for the actions that you take. So if you know that there have been incidents in the past, if you signed a code of conduct, a code of ethics to go into this school, and they say, hey, if you're part of this organization, or if you're on this campus, or if you attend this school, you cannot participate in any hazing, any bullying. By going to continue to do that, you've decided to forego all of the rules and suffer all of the consequences. So those gentlemen, as sad as it is that somebody ended up dying from the actions that they took, they signed up for the consequences when they decided to go through with the action. It's not unfair for you to have to face the consequences of your actions. If you go and rob a bank and you get away with it, you still robbed the bank. If you go and haze somebody and they die and you didn't mean to do it, somebody still died. You still have to suffer the consequences of your actions because you shouldn't have been doing it in the first place. And that's the same thing that we see with this runner. It's the same thing that we see with these guys in the fraternity. You have to be intentional about the way that you're living your life, the things that you're doing. And if you make a misstep that's outside of the law, you're going to be charged to the full extent of the law. It is what it is. It's what you signed up for. That's where we're going to end it. If you like the video, like the video. Subscribe to me back here for the next conversation. And if you have thoughts on the track runner in high school or the gentleman at Southern University or just people taking accountability in general, let the world know. This is the place for discourse. Till next time. Peace.